Good afternoon. How is everybody? It's the Top 1% podcast from the Medicare Machine Factory. I'm really excited about today's guest. We have the one, the only, the magnificent Medicare Misty. So today, we've been trying to plan this for a little while. I'm really excited to get this in just before AEP and hopefully help some people. If you're a procrastinator like most people are, you might have not had a full plan yet. And so hopefully we'll be able to give you a little bit of goodies that might help you. So real quick, for those that don't know who Medicare Misty is, from the beautiful state of Tennessee, tell us a little bit about what you're doing. I think you're doing a lot of great stuff.
Thank you, Josh. You too. I started 17 years ago by accident, honestly. Of course, there's no accident when it comes to God, but I wanted pharmaceutical and I interviewed 25 times. Nobody hired me. All my friends were getting the nice car, the bank, the gas card, and I didn't get that. So a lady come in, said, "Hey, you want to do Medicare?" And I said, "Huh? What's Medicare?" And she said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll teach you everything you need to know. What I can't teach is personality." So I started with HealthSpring in 2005, and then Cigna bought them. I moved, Humana had recruited me, worked my way up to sales manager, had moved with Humana, and then Blue Cross offered me a position to come home. I was the first captive outside sales rep for Blue Cross Blue Shield, and stayed there till 2011 when they came in and took our whole department because of healthcare reform. And that's how Medicare Misty was formed. I just went out, lived in Tennessee since 93. I just went out, got contracted with all the companies, and then just became a broker. And I didn't really have a team and didn't want a team until I figured out this whole independent thing. And friends kept getting laid off or, getting a divorce or just wanting to really a change. And I was giving away, here, go to this person, go talk to this person. And then I was still doing the work. They were still calling me. And that's how I said, you know what? I think I should be a broker. I should be getting paid for helping all these people.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's great. So tell me a little bit about how Medicare Misty was born. Is that your idea? Is that something people were calling you? Or you were just trying to get, because I love the phonetics where it's M and M and all that. But I'm just curious on where that came from.
Well, I was on the radio and I walked in one day and they're like, "Hey, Medicare Misty's here." And I'm like, "Yeah, she is." And then I just started branding from there. And it's funny. People's like, "What's your last name?" I'm like, "Misty is my last name."
Yeah.
So that's
branding. It's the share effect. It's the if you're that awesome and that famous in your area, you don't even need a last name.
That's right.
And the branding is that powerful. And I really encourage people, because I get that question a lot. Where did the brand come from? Where should I brand? What do I brand? Whose brand do I represent? My advice to everyone is always figure out a way to build your own brand, but don't just wing it. Like, it's got to come from sometimes it just comes from something like that. My company name came from a sheet of paper that we had created called the 4 Steps to Medicare Peace of Mind. And it always stuck with me that that's what I want. And it's been probably the best decision I ever made for my business. Yeah. My seminar 2 nights ago, I had 4 people come up, and they literally said the reason they came was because when they did the research, they found my agency was called Medicare Peace of Mind, and they wanted peace of mind. And so it's very creative in one way or the other. You either want to use your name, in my opinion, or you want to have what your business does or what you want the end result that you deliver to be. But yeah, no, I think you do a great job of branding. One of my favorite things about you is how involved you are with your community, how involved you are with the fun stuff like loading them all up on a bus and taking them to shopping or ice cream or wherever the heck. You do all kinds of different stuff like that. But so we really wanted to focus a little bit when we talked about this on grassroots. When you think of grassroots, what does that mean to you? And if a new agent's watching this or anyone, what would you say to them as far as, to me, if you think of roots, that is the foundation of the tree. That's the foundation of the plant, the flower. That's what keeps it from blowing away. That's what keeps it in the ground, in the place. I'm just curious because for me, if I look at my book of business and I look at my activities that I get opportunities for, I would say 90% of my activity comes from grassroots. If I look all the way back to the origination of my efforts, it was all grassroots efforts that I went through to build what I got. So I'm guessing that's the similar thing to you, but look, I would love to hear your take on grassroots.
Well, Josh, I didn't have any money. I was a single mom. Blue Cross laid us off, by surprise. I thought I was going to retire there. And so it was like, and I had the blessing of working for other companies and learning what grassroots meant and networking, because networking is like us now. Is the best way to build it without, using a big pocketbook if you don't have that corporate credit card. So I just went out and did events as cheap as possible. Dollar Tree used to be $1. It's $1.25 now. You could get 20 bingo prizes for $20 plus tax. So that would give me $20 to go and do a bingo at a low income housing area. I had $20 I could do. And, usually 1, 2, 3 sales you would get from those events. Then United Healthcare came out with their bingo. And I used it, which was kind of one of my favorite until we had our own approved, where the whole time you're educating them. Hey, zero premium. What does that mean? You're going to get this plan for no zero. Dental. What does that mean? You've got 3,000 of dental at no cost for you. So the whole time while they're playing, I'm also educating them. And then I have $20 to give away prizes. So I had to find a way as a single mom that had no support. How am I going to build this business? Because I always dreamed of having my own business, but the reality, thinking me being a single mom, not having that second income, I was scared I would never be able to be where I am. So I just started with ideas of like that, of how I could partner, or I would bring in a home health care. Hey, there's this event here. Would you partner with me and split the cost with me? I didn't have an upline then. I was direct. And I didn't even know. I mean, you don't get a handbook when you get in this business of, hey, ask for money, do sales. I learned that later on. And then I would, at the chamber's $300 a year, and they let you make monthly payments. So I would make monthly payments for that. And then I started my own kind of networking event where I just got each person from each group, just kind of like BNI, and grew it, from that. Because most of the people that I was talking to were business owners, didn't have that money either. When you think of healthcare and all the expenses plus your business on top of it. And we are in the people business. It's a partnership. You can't do it alone. It's just harder to do it that way. So I found the cheapest way possible to do it with the least amount of money and make sure I got to sell each time. There's a lot of health fairs. We're an outdoor city. So everybody's outdoor. We have county fairs. We have festivals. We always find a reason to have a festival. And usually they don't cost but $50 to set up a booth. And now I have that bus where I can take that bus everywhere, to do it. And I can spend a little bit more money, which is how I branded, is now Medicare Misty's everywhere instead of it just being, Misty, the Medicare specialist.
Yeah. The grassroots for me is it's hard. Don't think of it like creating a garden out in the desert. You've got to find the right shade. You've got to find the right conditions, and a lot of it's about just that persistence and consistency, and the creativeness. The more you can be creative on how you can accomplish something, like for me, I was in the same boat. I walked away from my salary and I walked away from all that. I did it voluntarily because I knew this was where I needed to be to get the dreams accomplished that I wanted to accomplish. And so I went into it in the same mindset of, I don't have any money. I just doubled more than doubled my mortgage. I bought a new car before I quit my job. I made my wife a stay-at-home mom. I literally made it as hard as possible for me to succeed as I could on accident. But I rise to the occasion in that sense. But I was looking for a way to stand out differently because I had spent 14 years watching a bunch of agents do it wrong, do it right, do it different ways. And I knew the ones that were happiest and most successful had figured out a way to get referrals, and not referrals from their clients. Referrals from their clients should be like, if the only way you don't do that is if you don't take care of people and then you don't ask. But referrals from a doctor's office, or referrals from a dentist's office, or referrals from a financial planner, or referrals from the Chamber of Commerce, or referrals from whoever, those are more difficult to develop and get because that referral source is also trying to run their own business. And so if you don't have a reciprocation where you have a steady stream of referrals back, it's really hard to get momentum with those things unless you're willing to do what no one else is willing to do, unless you're willing to show up and volunteer a little bit. Again, don't go into a location with a volunteer to get like a bait switch mindset, because if you do that, they're going to forever look at you as a volunteer and you'll never cross over. But if you tell them that, look, if you're in a pinch and no one shows up for the soup line and you like, there is no soup line if someone doesn't help, that's the kind of day I'll jump in and help on a spot basis.
Very good.
But that willingness to jump in, that willingness to show up, it pays off. And here's what I'll tell you. I spent, there's a food bank that I have. It serves, there's 4,000 boxes that go out every month. And every month I have an opportunity to put a flyer in that box. And the box only goes to those 60 and over and on low income. So it's a target market for what we're trying to do, accomplishing, helping dual eligibles. But what it took me standing in a parking lot. It took me, in a lot of them, I went to every mobile food pantry they had. When they said, how many of these do you want? I said, give me every single one you got. And so the next thing you know, I'm literally standing an hour in a parking lot every day of the week for AEP, my first AEP. And a lot of those times what I didn't plan out was, number one, they're in a parking lot. Number two, it's the wintertime in AEP. And so I'm standing in cold parking lots. No one wants to talk to me, because what I didn't think about was, like, if I'm the person going to the food bank and I'm there and it's cold and it's the winter and I don't want to be here, how much am I wanting to engage in the insurance guy standing at the end of the process wanting to talk to me when I've already got my food? And so I had to get really good at building relationships with the volunteer staff. And what ended up happening was, in the beginning, I didn't really get any clients from the people coming to the food bank. Who I got as clients were all the people that were volunteering at the food bank. And then once I got them as clients, then all of a sudden everything would switch for me, because now they were now an advocate for me. And I had this one guy, I didn't speak Spanish, but he would go up and down the line in Spanish and tell everybody I was there. Back then I was so afraid of making a violation. Like, they told you can't leave your booth. They have to engage you. You can't. And so I literally followed that rule of the law, which I found out nobody else does that. But again, for me, it was about because I was there for 3 years, every day, every week. Eventually I figured out that I wanted the main food bank, because let me just give you a pro tip. There's food pantries and there's food banks. Food pantries are distribution sites only. They are great for you to go in, work for 3 months, and then get the hell out of there, because it's the same people going every time. And so after you've been there a few months, you've worked the entire pond. There are no more fish to catch. And so you want to move on from food bank to food bank, or be there once a month and be at a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But a food bank is a distribution center, and it's the local warehouse that distributes all the food to the distribution sites. And so if you can get a food bank instead of a food pantry, that's way more impactful, but they're way harder to get. And I had to stand in there for basically 2.5 years myself every single week. And now I've transitioned to where I have people on my team that are there every single week. But I can tell you, we get applications, 5 to 10 applications a month, from standing in cold parking lots.
Yeah. And
that power, to me, is the most powerful thing you can have, because no matter what happens, like the lead drops that I do could go to 0% return. Everything else, these relationships that I've developed and the relationships you develop in your community, those are rock solid relationships that will not die with anything other than someone leaving. So just here's my other pro tip. If you're working at a location, you have a really awesome relationship, and then the person like retires on you or moves to their job or something, you've got to work 10 times as hard to keep that than you did to get it, because the new person is going to look at you and be like, no. And that happened to me with this low income housing building, and I was working, and then I made the mistake, like a bonehead. They called a new lady, like 2 people later, called me and said, oh, I found your card in here. Do you do stuff for us? And I'm like a dumbass. I said, I did, but then people didn't like me. I remember what I said, but it was like basically said, yeah, you shouldn't trust me. It was basically what I said to her. But yeah, so for me, grassroots is key. And for you, is there 1 or 2 things that you found? I found goodie bags. So I carry around with them. I don't even have them because I'm ready for my seminar tonight. But I have goodie bags and different ones. And what I've done is, anytime a carrier offers swag, I take it, and I'm always asking for it. But I've said this a few times before, but you haven't watched the video before. Here's the hack to get swag. You have to have a plan first. So you say, look, I'm at the food bank every Tuesday from 8 to 11. Can you get me some swag for that? And you'd say, I need there's 400 people that come every time. Can I get 300 pieces of swag? And if you have a very specific plan and a very specific request, then they're more willing to fill that than if you just say, hey, can I put some swag in my garage? Because that's basically what you're saying when you say, can I have some swag? So
Yeah.
what are your tips on that kind of stuff?
Well, and I've been, when I didn't have money, I used their swag. I use my own now, because I want to bring, I do a lot of Medicare only tables, Medicare MISTY tables, to get my name out there. Then I can talk about, everything Medicare and not Pacific one plan. I like to use the carriers when we co-op, but a lot of times carriers will still let you brand yours and still give you a co-op. But I think I have pins. So in my purse, every time I leave a restaurant, I'm leaving them a pin. Waitresses love pin, bartenders love pins. I do matchbooks, which it's funny. Every time I do it at an event, they'll say, "Oh, this is vintage." I'm thinking, matches are vintage? How old am I? Because they're not anymore, because people vape. But I will
Yeah.
tell you, bars love them. I carry them with me everywhere I go. If I'm licensed there, I'll lay them down, even if I'm not licensed, because never know where they're traveling. But once I give them a pretty pin, and then I say, "Hey, could I also leave my matches?" Then they're willing to help you. And it's the same thing. One of the things you said, Josh, is that it's consistency. So you being at a food bank for 2 years is you building. They're going to, like, Josh is going to be here. So I know Josh is, or one of your teammates is going to be here. A lot of what I hear is a lot of people, and will say, well, this doesn't work. Walmart doesn't work. Walgreens doesn't work. And what I've noticed is they just don't know. You have to say hi to everybody. And I get it, because it is intimidating. Like you said, when you read those rules, don't talk to anybody. They have to approach you, but you can say hi. You can say, "I love your shirt." And Medicare peace of mind. Yes, I need that. I mean, that was brilliant. I love when people don't take from each other, but they do their own creativity. And you've come up with two awesome, the Medicare Machine Factory and Medicare Peace of Mind, and taking your picture, with them, and you can see the peace of mind on their face. So it's doing that kind of thing every day and thinking outside the box. But it's consistency. And every day I stress, until you've hit a comfortable residual income, which when people like you come around, Josh, and you're like, "I did 500 in AP," and I'm like, seriously, I was really enjoying my life. And now I'm like, can I do 500? So, I mean, you motivate me in that aspect, whether it's competition or not. I think we help each other get to that next level. Don't look at it like, some are like, well, I should just quit because there's no way I could do 500. And don't look at it, like, to me, it gave me, I'm like, I'm going to try. Worst case scenario, I don't do it, but maybe I hit 400 this year, And I want people to think that, because I think some of these the pages and things that have been in it, they get discouraged. Run your race. It's like people, and it's a particular race. When you're going for a marathon, there's a first person, a middle person, and a last person. But you still showed up, even if you're last, and you still placed. So quit thinking that what we're doing is, you can't do it, because you're going to bring something else to the table. Just don't quit, because you came up with Medicare Machine Factory after Medicare Peace of Mind, which is, if you would have quit, there would be no Medicare Machine Factory in
Right.
that. So I just want to encourage people, consistency, show up, and then brand where you're at. I love Walmart. I love Walgreens. I would put signs all around the Walgreens and the Walmart saying, "There's a Medicare person here on this date." And then I would do it on Walmart. And then I would go and do a mailer around my Walmart. And I would go around into all the businesses and homes and let them know, hey, there's a Medicare agent that's going to be here. But if you don't put up a sign, how are people supposed to know where you're at? And if you don't say hi, because I mean, people don't know they need you, and they don't want to be sold. So like you said before, saying hi and getting out there and just being nice to them and complimenting them will put their guard down to open up a conversation to be able to help them on what they need, and not be a salesy person, like you said.
Yeah, you have to be salesy if you're desperate, if you're not well prepared. To me, sales in its pure form is manipulation. Now, you can do manipulation for good. You can do manipulation from a good spot. You can do manipulation with a plan, but you can also do manipulation for good. You can also do manipulation to convince someone, like my kid the other day. he was dead set. He's 2 years old, and he was dead set that he needed to run through the parking lot. And we got in an argument and basically a fight, and he threw a tantrum because I wouldn't let him run through the parking lot. And sometimes you've got to put yourself in a position that you force yourself to do what you don't want to do, what doesn't feel comfortable. And grassroots in itself, unless you're just an outgoing personality, like for me being an introvert, grassroots marketing sucks on every level for me. Every time the hard part is getting out of the car, like I'm fine driving over there, everything's happy, I'm thinking in my mind, oh, this would be great, we're gonna do this. Then you pull into the parking lot, and trust me, I'm no different than you. My brain, I'm sure Misty does too, on some level, where you pull up and you're like, you know what, maybe I'll just go. Because what if they're mean? What if they're not there? What if it doesn't work? What if, right? Your brain goes to the what if, and it goes always to the negative side. What I've learned to do is when I pull up, instead of letting my brain, because it'll go that way if I don't stop it, I start saying, what if they say yes? What if they like me? What if I get 10 referrals in the next month from doing this? What if, because it's happened. And you have to have that belief, that hope, because it's a lot like scratch lottery tickets. So you're going to scratch off, they say the odds are 1 in 4, 1 in 5, whatever the hell they are on the back of it. But in reality, you probably have to scratch off 10 or 15 to find the winner you're looking for. Maybe even more than that. And sometimes you got to scratch off 1,000 of them before you find the big winner. But if there's $1 million winner 150 scratch tickets from now, but you don't know it, how willing are you to go through the 149 losers?
Absolutely.
Because those 149 losses suck. There's no way to change that. Mm-hmm. And so you have to get mentally tough, and you have to be okay with people being mean, people being rude, people saying get the hell out of here, and you have to be okay with switching the mindset from why don't they like me to thank you, God, for keeping that person out of my life. Because if you switch it and have the grateful gratitude for the opportunities that do come, it makes all the other ones go away. Another one, John Wetmore, I think, does a really good job. He talks about the psychologically of dialing. I don't do phone work, so I'm not worried about how many dials I do a day. But if I was doing phone work, that would matter. And how do you motivate yourself to do more dials? Well, you got to break it down. How much money do I make a month? How many dials did I make that month? Then you can divide those two, and you can figure out how much I get paid to dial. So that way you're in your mind, you go, hey, even when they tell me to go F myself, I still made $12 or whatever that per dial number is. But sometimes it's just psychological. And grassroots is not hard. It's just a relationship. And so if you think about it, how can I get creative? Yeah. I love giftology. I never had, until 8%, I never had a term to put behind what that is. But for me, I'm always trying to find an edge like that, to try to take some time, get to know the person that you want to get to know, like almost stalk them on a way. If you can, call their assistant and say, I'm just curious. My boss wanted to send Bill a gift. What's his favorite liquor? What's his favorite cigar? What's their favorite candy bar? Whatever it is. If you just take a little bit of time, because there's nothing that drives me crazy more. Like, what's the most favorite gift that you get, Misty, from people, from the industry, from other people? What do you think?
I love it when it's about me, so they do something with Medicare Misty.
Well,
I mean, yeah, that's my brand.
Gift. What's the average gift that someone gives you? Because I can tell you, without even hesitating, it's every single time I get the same gift from people.
Oh,
it's one of two things. It's either wine.
Okay.
Or it's two chocolate, or it's two whiskey glasses or something like that. I don't drink and I don't like chocolate. So all of you out there that are sending me a gift and it's wine or chocolate, it really is like an insult to me. It tells me that you took no time to get to know who I am, and you sent me a gift that has no value to me. And so whatever value you thought you had by sending me that, it goes all out the window because you took zero time to put any meaning behind the gift. So just send me cash. That would be way better. I would actually have more impact on my life. Like, actually, you took some, hey, that can help me. But if you send me a whiskey glass, like, the only value it has to me is the sound of it breaking on the concrete. I enjoy that sound. I like the breaking glass. But so again, take the time to build a relationship, and don't just look at it as a transaction. Like, they're there to funnel people to me to make money. I'm there to give them value first, to make their life better first. And then hopefully a real relationship blossoms out of that. And then you got to water it. You got to weed it. You got to keep the weather off it. You got to protect it from the wind. I think of relationships like a garden. And so, again, use your gifts wisely, but use them smart. Because if you do a gift smart, it doesn't have to be a ton of money, right? It could be something creative. Like, send Medicare Misty a $30 kids guitar with her logo on it, and she'll put it right in the wall behind her next to that yellow framed picture. Something like that has meaning behind it.
Yeah.
And so grassroots, same thing. So for me, here's what I would give as my number one grassroots tip. If you haven't seen it before, I've given it a few times. Low-income housing is my favorite. And what you do is you call in advance like an undercover cop, and you say, my mom, my grandma, whoever the hell you make up somebody if you don't have anybody, they're trying to find a place to live. Do you have a waiting list? Are there any available units right now? How many units do you have? What kind of activities do you have for your residents? Who's the activities director? And you go through all the stuff as though you're a potential resident, and they'll give you everything that you need to know. But if you call and say, hi, I'm an insurance person, they're going to give you zero information because you're the enemy now. But if you build up a bunch of rapport, as an example, the reason I want to know how many units, because then I'm going to put together, if there's 500 units, I'm going to put together 500 goodie bags, and I'm going to go back to that person. I'm going to find the activities director that I asked about. I'm going to say, look, there's a lot of residents here that are low income. Here's some goodie bags with some hand sanitizer, with some toilet paper, with some toothbrushes, with some whatever it is that I'm just trying to give back to the community. And in there's a business card. Now, in those goodie bags, fight the urge to advertise. Just give value first. And you can have your card in there, and you can have like a little notepad. So I have these little notepads that I use that have Medicare Peace of Mind. So I'll put something like that in there so that every time they write a note, it has my logo, it has my phone number, that kind of stuff. But if you make it about giving first, what ends up happening is the person will call back and say, that was so nice, or whatever it is. And then that's your opportunity to say, hey, there's another way I could really help. I could do like a presentation for the meeting. I could set up a table on Tuesdays. You tell me what you think would be most impactful, but I can help them way more than giving them a toothbrush. I can get them a plan that'll give them dental, give them vision, give them food, you can go through that process and you sell it to the person of influence. The activities director is your person of influence, and let them do all the work. Like, it's not compliant for me to go around and put one of those goodie bags in every door, but it's completely compliant for me to hand the box to her or him, and they go put it on everybody's door.
Absolutely.
So it's that outside the box mentality, that how do I make myself stand out? Because if you think you're the first person walking into the doctor's office, to the church, to the wherever, talking about Medicare, you're the 500th person.
Yeah.
And the other 500 sucked at it. I guarantee it. And so if you can do something to stand out, to be fun, to be energetic, to be happy, where they leave and go, wow, what the heck was that? Was that like a fun tornado, or what hit me? That's the mentality. And you guys watching, this is so opposite of if you like see me in my natural state, like sitting at home, I don't have this energy. I don't have this passion. Like, my favorite thing to do is sit around and play video games with my daughter. Like, I would rather do that than go out to a party. Like, when someone says, come to the party, like, think about it, Misty. We've been to a lot of events together. There's been a lot of parties. How often do you see me at the
Yeah.
And how long do you see me for?
Little bit.
Yeah.
Where do you go?
I'm in bed by 10 o'clock because, number one, I don't enjoy it. Number two, I don't drink. And so watching a bunch of adults be drinkers and get silly. Now, what has that cost me money? I would guarantee you it's probably cost me money, because most of the big deals made in our business are made with 80% alcohol influence. It loosens up lips, it loosens up contracts, it loosens up all kinds of stuff. I just don't play the game. Yeah. And so for me, would it be advantageous if I could learn to get over that? Probably. However, why? Why not be authentic to myself and just keep being me? Because then that'll attract the people that I want. If I try to be the party boy, then guess who I'm going to attract? A bunch of party boys. And then I've literally put myself in the environment I didn't want to be in the first place. But if I hold true to the fact that I don't drink, and I hold true to the fact that I hate partying, and I hold true to all that, I'm going to attract the people that are like that. And maybe it's a smaller population, but I would argue the results speak for themselves. And whether you want to be at Misty's level, whether you want to be Medicare Machine, whether you want to, I genuinely hope I have people on my team soon kicking my butt.
Amen.
Because I'm waiting for someone to take the pressure off me being the lead wolf. That's all. But I can't do that until people do that. So I'm curious, on your team, is that your mentality now too? Are you trying to be more guide the team than you are a producer, or are you still doing what I'm doing and trying to do both?
Well, I'm doing what you're doing. I'm trying not to do both, but what I did is I ran my business as an LOA, and they're 1099s. So, in order to keep doing the advertisement, I had to keep selling because they weren't paying for anything. So now I've changed that, and it'll relieve me from having to focus on selling so much. And that's what I want to get to, where I am just the face and the leads go directly to the agent. But I was doing it all for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't work very well, as we know, as parents too. If we do it all for them, they'll continue to want us to do it all for them. So that was a learning experience. And it helped me with going to, these events to find other people. I didn't know what an LOA was. I'd never heard of it. So now I'm doing it right. And this will be the first year, and I'm pretty excited about it because that will give them a chance to also teach them how to market. Because if you're doing it for them, they just think that it just grows without watering and plucking. And, it does take a lot of time to build a relationship, but it also takes a lot of time to dial, that I don't do either. I'm not a dialer. But every person I get that comes from dialing and teach them grassroots marketing, their whole demeanor changes of how happy they're like, I wish I would have found this concept 10 years ago. And you don't need money. I get to do, I don't think I shared this with you, but with my magazine and my TV show, I don't charge anybody to be in my magazine or my TV show. That's a way I can build a relationship and give back. Now, I'm selling little ads, but they're not, expensive, just to kind of support the magazine. But it's actually, and the TV show, it's actually turned where, God says you can't ever outgive him. When I give back, say, when I find out what they need, just like an insurance, and help them get what they need, in return, it gets me what I need. And I've been doing that a lot more with the community. When you talked about the community aspect, is finding out what they need. Let's partner, put my name on it, and make it happen. And that makes you able to do a ton of stuff too, because now you got a few different pocketbooks involved, to do that. But I think we forget that helping others helps us get what we want. And there's always going to be competition, and there is good competition as long as they're nice. And I think it makes me strive to another level, seeing like what you had done with the 500. I was like, my goal is beat Josh this year, beat Medicare machine, this year. And if I don't, I'm not going to be all sad and quit. I'm going to say, okay, what are you doing next year, Josh? To do that, or motivate my team to do that. Because I hear from them, well, I can't do that, so I should just not show up. And it's not the case. We're all at a different level, and we all start somewhere. And your story, Josh, totally amazes me. We talked before of where you come from, and even being an introvert, because obviously I'm not an introvert. But I still get nervous. Like you said, there's still times that it's like you talk, you're exhausted and you don't want to go. You're like, I possibly cannot give any energy more out right now. But you show up, you go anywhere, and you see the magic that comes.
Well, yeah. And I guess as you were saying that, I was like, well, the more I think about it, I'm an introvert for everything I don't like.
Okay, that makes
Because I was thinking about it last night, and I was telling the people at the end of my seminar, this is the end of my 14-hour day. And if you can't tell, I love this stuff. And when I'm in those moments of a seminar with, it was 19 people and this little crammed in, there was like no room for anybody to walk or breathe. But for me, in those moments when I'm doing that, I can't help but think the impact I'm going to have on the rest of their life. Whether they work with me or not, I had 2 people last night that got up early and left, which I never had before. So that was a new experience to deal with. But for me, the impact that we have in doing what we love, it pulls an introvert into an extrovert. It pulls you to where you need to be if you put yourself in a position where you're doing what you love. And so it's, if you don't love helping people, if you don't love old people, which I don't know why we wouldn't like either one of those things, but that's really what the Medicare business offers you, is an opportunity to work with, in my opinion, one of the most fun populations. Because if you haven't noticed how the cycle of life works, you start out as a kid, you turn into a grumpy old adult, and then a lot of us turn back into a kid.
Yes.
And we get into the harvest season of life and that final stage. And so for me, I love kids and I love old people, and being able to spend my whole day helping Mrs. Jones, helping Mr. Johnson, and making an impact in their life where they can afford their medications, or they can do things, or they can get their teeth fixed, or the power of something like that. Like for me, I have enough money to fix my tooth. I've been waiting. I just haven't had time. I have a hole in my head
Oh
that
no.
gives me self-consciousness all the time. I could go in and get the implant anytime. It's just about the time to do it. But my point is, it's still a thing that's self-conscious to me. And other people probably didn't even notice or didn't even know. But every time I see a picture of me smiling or anything else, or on stage or anything else, that's the first thing I'm looking at. I was like, look at the damn hole in your head, get it fixed. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change my value.
Yeah.
So whether your first year, whether this is your 40th year, whether this is your 15th year, and if you're thinking 500 sounds crazy like Misty does, it did sound crazy. And 2 years ago, honestly, it was like Dr. Evil and Awesome Powers. I was like, I'll just do 500 apps, like whatever. And then I got into it. And if it weren't for my wife pushing me, because I don't keep score, but she every day that year, the first year when I was going to do 500, she insisted that every day at the end of the day, we counted up how many apps I did and we put it on the whiteboard. So I knew where I was in progress to achieving the goal. And the farther I got into it, I was like 3 weeks into it. I was like, holy crap, this is actually possible. I might actually hit this crazy number that everybody thought I was crazy for saying. And it was just from that. And then that gave me the extra fire to keep going. Because once you hit, I'm telling you guys, if you're averaging 14 applications a day, which is what you have to do to get to 500 or more, you got to average 14 applications a day. And when you get like 2 to 3 weeks into that, and it's Sunday night, and you've been working 18 hours a day for 30 days in a row now, it's really hard to keep going because
Exhausted.
the only thing that kept me going was the fact that I had to prove that I could do it.
Yeah.
Because I put it out there, and I lose a lot of value and credibility if I scream on top of the world that I'm going to do 500 and everybody goes, yeah, 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 and then I don't do it, versus the value of everyone saying, yeah, 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 and then I do it. Now, and then some people are going to say all that other crap, not on your own pen, he cheated, he's got resources. That's what I hear all the time. He's got staff, he's got this, he's got that. I've got one office person. So I don't have this big staff. My wife's the vice president of the company, but in reality, I want her job to be stay-home mom and then help with the culture of the company. So there's no handouts here. This is all pure, unadulterated grassroots work that I did 3-4 years ago. I'm still continually watering the field on. Again, if you build a relationship with a partner, don't just stop showing up.
Yeah.
Assuming that the relationship will keep going. It's just like any other relationship. If you don't mend it, if you don't show up, you don't call, you don't check in, it'll go away. So, tell me, Misty, about you, because it's all about me right now, and I don't want it to be about me. Misty, what makes Misty want to do 500 apps?
Well, I'm very competitive. So
okay.
it will, and the 75 hard. So I've just been hearing about that. John, speaking of John Whitmore did that. And I reached out to the guy to say, I think I want to do this. Well, then I start thinking just basically what you were saying. Well, Thanksgiving is coming up, and I'm always with my in-laws, which are a lot of fun. And I do drink, and they love wine. They're Catholic. And I'm thinking, what? I don't want to not drink with them. What if something happens? It's our last Thanksgiving. And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to win this thing. So the negativity starts setting in, and I start thinking, but what if I do it? What if I don't drink? What if I do a gallon, So I think the possibility, like I run the numbers over in my head and I'm like, there's no possible way. I have a heart condition. I could use that as another excuse.
Mm-hmm.
I have a heart condition, running 18 hours a day, which I already do. My husband will tell you. And 14 apps a day, it just, the whole picture is like, I'm going to give up before I even started. I've already told the guy, I don't really want to do this because I want to be with my in-laws on Thanksgiving. I know he's thinking, you need to do this. And I think for anybody out there, whether it's 500, 300, 200, whatever, you need a goal to set you on track. And then not, like you said, just to keep pushing you. I think we all need an Aaron. I will say that, or if you don't have an Aaron, put your own board up and just say, look what I've done, count your numbers and keep going and keep showing up. Because before, when I started, I didn't have the community that's been built at all. I didn't have this right here. It was do it or don't. It's your choice. Nobody cares. And now, there's a lot of haters, which is part of it. But I ate, what is that stuff? I ate the cheese, or I ate the crap a lot before they see the now person, because the internet was not as good as it is now. So I just say everybody has a place in this space. I don't think it's saturated at all. Like my agents will say, quit hiring, which I'm not hiring. There are things, even if you're in a saturated market, let's just use Florida. There are things that an agent has not done. There's a dentist office, there's a PNC office, there's a veteran center that nobody has touched. I went to California and trained an agent. We found a senior center, and I'm talking her first event, 150 people showed up. And I told her, I said, there's chills. I have never seen this. It never happened for me. Every event was just a blessing, and there was no agent around. And this is a brand new agent in a field that everybody says is saturated. And there's not. You've got to get your mindset around marketing and build it.
Yeah, there's a million people out there telling you what to do, which is why, like for me, I'll tell you exactly what I do. I'll give you the exact framework what I do. Why do I do that? Number one, I'm not afraid of you actually doing it because it takes real hard work and most people don't do it. And number two, even if you do it, you're going to make your own twist on it. And it also forces me to keep innovating and making mine better. So you got to plug in. You can't just not try. And you got to do something to make yourself different. I agree. To this day, I can walk into any. There's several dentists, even if they already have somebody. So if I walk into a dentist office and they tell me, "Oh, we already have somebody that helps us," I say, "Okay, cool. When's the last time they were here? How often they come by? Do they leave any stuff to help people? Do they do events? Do they do anything?" And you try to paint the picture, and they're like, "No. Well, is that something you think would be valuable? Because I don't mind a little competition. That we can both work here." Having the guts to say that, you just never know.
Exactly.
You just never know.
Yeah.
And they may say, "Oh no, we're good, we're set." And if they do, then you know for sure. And you just cross it off the list and go to the next one because there's 10 more offices within 5 miles. And the grassroots is really, if you've never tried to grow a lawn from dirt before, you'll understand what we mean by grassroots. Because if you ever try to grow a lawn and you don't just use sod, there's a little bit of a science and an art and a lot of things that go into having a good lawn. And I can tell you from doing it before, you plant seeds everywhere, but not everywhere does grass grow. And you're going to have to go back through and find the dead spots and the empty spots and other stuff. And you'll have to till that soil even more. You might have to add some fertilizer and some other stuff to get the grass to grow in that area. In some areas, the grass will just grow and you can't like stop it. And it's like out of control, grows too fast. That's the same thing. You just never know what part of the yard you're in and whether or not this is going to be an opportunity where you have 150 people show up, or if this is going to be an opportunity where they tell you to get the hell out of there. and you've got to be okay with both. Absolutely. Like if you want to taste the honey, you got to be willing to get stung a couple times. Period.
Yeah.
Or somebody has to get stung to get the honey.
Well, and I think also, Josh, is whether it's 150 people or 2 people, I've had a 2 people seminar that turned into 100 people because that guy gave me so many referrals. And I love it when they say at an event, well, I didn't get any leads. If it's a low event because the advertisement wasn't good, or maybe it was a big game day or whatever, I always go around to the vendors, partner with them. Hey, I'm so-and-so. If you need any help, I'll find leads. I will leave an event. When someone says it's dead, I always say, call me if you think it's dead. And I'll come in and say, look, the opportunity that you missed, because with it being dead, that gives you an opportunity to go around and meet everybody that's there, that's trying to grow their business and build a partnership. So there's never such a thing as a dead event or a dead Walmart, or because there's every CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, there is always 100 to 100,000 people that come into that store. So if they're coming into it, you just saying, hey, I love your shirt. Hey, I love your name. Wow, where'd you get that hat? That's genius. Look at those shoes. I mean, just building, people love compliments. So, I mean, I want everybody to think outside the box. You know, we're doing this forum with, you know, trying to help women. And every day someone comes on there, you know, I'm not making it. I don't understand. I'm going to start over. And I'm thinking, what did you do that did you not do it every day? Like bathing. We have to bathe every, day to stay clean. And it's the same thing with your business. You have to go out there every day and plant that seed, have those cute little shoes for the grass that have the spikes in it. And then I use the little spikes and then you water it. I mean, it's the same thing with the relationship, like you're saying too, but you have to be consistent. You have to do it when you don't want to do it, and just think outside the box. And yes, sometimes they may think you're silly, like you said, or may say, hey, you have to leave next. Like you said, there's another person. I like what you said. I've never done that where they said, I'm already working with somebody, and then be like, whoa, wait a minute. So we both could be, or that's a huge thing right there.
Yeah, that and my other one is, do they work with more than one company? Because I know my competition, half the competition's a captive agent for United Healthcare, and they can only sell United Healthcare. And I say, does their card have a logo on it of an insurance company, or is it a logo of a broker? And I try to explain the difference. But yeah, until they tell me get the hell out of there, I'm going to try to find a way. Again, you find an excuse, you find a way. So for me, every person's my client. Even Misty's clients are my client. It's just a matter of when. So if Misty dies, as an example, no offense, Misty, if you died, but if you died, then all those clients are now an opportunity. And so for me, I'm positioning myself that even if they're taken care of well, I do the same thing. If I run into a client, I'm in the home, and I ask them that question, who's your agent? And if they say Bill, and I say, okay, when's the last time Bill called you, and why? And how often do you hear from Bill? Does Bill take care of you like he's supposed to? And if Bill takes care of that person like they're supposed to, I say, you keep Bill, you keep my card. If Bill retires, dies, or moves on you, call me.
Absolutely.
So I want to be in position that when the moment of pain happens, I want to be the point of pleasure they look to. But you've got to position for that, and you got to look at them like, instead of going, you have Bill, well, screw Bill. Bill is awesome. Bill's doing what he's supposed to do. If Bill was my mom's agent, I'd be happy. And so if Bill's taking care of you properly, I have a professional respect for what Bill does. Now, if Bill's not doing what he's supposed to, and they say, Bill, I talked to him once when he helped me enroll 5 years ago, and I haven't heard from him since, then sorry, Bill, they're my client now. That was the opportunity we were waiting for. So, but if you operate on that level of ethics and you operate on that level of mindset, what happens is all of a sudden business just starts flying in. Like, I can't tell you how many phone calls I get. Well, I can't. We've been keeping track this year. We average 4 referrals a day for me. Whether it's someone that calls my cell phone, or somebody calls the office, or they send an email, somehow, some way, someone's saying, hey, I got your name from, and sometimes they're like, I don't even remember who I got my name from. Doesn't matter. So real quick, we have a couple of minutes left. What I like to do at this portion of the podcast with everybody is flip the script on myself and let you ask me any question with no topics being off limit, like literally anything, everything. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that Misty might want to know about Joshua.
Well, I heard your story and I love your story, but I don't know if have you done a podcast with your story?
Like my whole background. I mean, some. I'm not on my channel. No, most of it's been on other people's channels.
Would you want to do that?
Sure.
Because it's dear to my heart, because my parents were 16 when they had me, and my father is an amazing. Actually, both of my parents are very smart, but they have given up. And so to hear your story and kind of flip it, my dad had gotten my brother in the kind of same illegal business, which gave my brother no hope, but he turned his life around too. And I think that's why, when I first met you, I had so much admiration, because you beat the statistics and you beat the naysayers that said you wouldn't do it. And I think there's more people out here like that need you,
sure,
and know that you've turned that into a winning. And I think it's just a great story.
Okay. Yeah. I'd be happy to do that. So for me, my whole childhood, I was always told you have so much potential. Like that's all I hear at student teacher conferences, everywhere else I go. Oh my gosh, Joshua has so much potential. It was never, Joshua, you're so awesome. Because for me, I started to believe that just the potential was enough. And so I've always been the path of least resistance guy. And so in my early late teens, early 20s, on paper and in reality, I was nobody that any of you would want to know. I was nobody that any of you would like. I was a very, very manipulative, lying, cheating, stealing, do whatever it takes to win, jackass. And doing that eventually caught up with me. For a while, I was proud because I was the only one I ever met. Like, there's a rule between age 16 and age 20, I got caught for driving without a license 5 times.
Wow.
And there's a mandatory minimum 10-day jail sentence that goes with that charge. And every single time I was able to get my way out of it. And that almost gave me this stupid air of invincibility that all I have to do is make up a story or write an essay. And that's what I would do. I would get the people around me. One time I got my boss to write me a letter. One time I wrote a letter and an essay. But I've learned how to manipulate people, which is sales, but I was using it for evil instead of good. And everything caught up with me. And so I got a DUI. And then with the DUI came its own set of challenges and things. And in the same time period of getting the DUI, I then took a job at a dentist office. And in that process, I was going through the legal troubles of the DUI, which I got a felony with it because I didn't stop. So if you get pulled over, just stop. That removes a felony if you do that. But you put yourself, for me, I put myself in a position where on paper, I shouldn't be where I'm at today. In all reality, most people that went down the path that I went down, the end is prison or death. And I'm going to go on video saying my skin color had a huge bearing on which path I went down, because there was a point where I was on probation and I got a second DUI. And believe it or not, when you're on probation for your first DUI, they don't like it when you get the second one. And so it violated all my probations. And the problem was I had done so much to get in so much trouble. I was on probation in 3 or 4 different counties. And so when I got violated on my probation, it violated me in 3 different counties. And then on this one, I had a date to show up in court that I never found out about because I was in jail, that all of a sudden now I'm in violation of that. And so it basically, everything caught up to me. And I eventually had to have this moment. And I went through this what I call, I basically blamed everybody else. And I went through this 3-week period in jail because I wasn't on work release anymore. They took all that away. I was in work release, so jail was pretty easy. I go to work every day and all that kind of stuff. But they took that away, and I had 3 weeks where I didn't shave, I didn't eat, I didn't bathe. I was on a hygiene and food strike. I thought that would somehow do something for me. But here's what I'll tell you. When I got into work release, one of the reasons they took that away was they told you that when you go in, you can have a hot UA, and I was a marijuana user heavy. And in my mind, I went in with the highest level I could. And then they would do UA every week. And as long as your levels kept coming down, you were fine. What happened to me was they kept coming down, and then I had one in the middle that went all the way to 0. And then they came back up and started to go back down again. So in their mind, they violated me because I reused. But this was the one time in my life where I was actually innocent and I was going to be proven guilty anyways. And so I put this big stink. I went on the hunger strike. My lawyer was fighting on the backside, and it basically took him threatening them. But long story short, right at the last moment, God released me by making the I forget what the hell the leader of the jail is called. Whatever it is. The head leader of the jail had to make the decision. Do we fight it out in court? Because that's what my lawyer was about to do, is drag everybody in court and subpoena all the guards and make them miss work and all this stuff. That's basically what he said. He's like, you're going to have a nightmare keeping your schedule full because I'm going to take all your staff out to court. And so they finally just made the decision, fine. And they gave me all my stuff, and I ended up getting released 2 days later after that. But that 16 days changed how I looked at everything. And I stopped blaming everybody else, and I started looking at myself and started to say, well, maybe you're here because of what you've chosen to do. And it was in that moment where I started to move forward. And the guy that gave me a chance, because believe it or not, when you get a DUI and you go to jail, and then you in the middle of that, your dentist that you're working for, they go to Bosnia because they're in the Army Reserves. While he was gone, I thought it was a great idea to start writing myself prescriptions of Percocet. Oh, and that is also a felony out there. That's a bad idea, by the way. But so I went through this period. It was just a 2-year period of my life where I racked up 3 felonies. I should have been in jail basically till now. And there's this moment in that process where when I had to get taken back from Denver County, and I was in the front of the judge in Denver, and I was honestly, I was nervous as hell because the 6 people before me were all there for this. Everybody in the room's there for violation of probation. Everybody. So we're all there for the same thing, basically. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, I'm here on violating my probation by doing the exact same thing I was already on probation. Like literally, I didn't learn my lesson. And so I was watching, and the people before me, it was like, okay, 10 years, 12 years. Like these people were getting decade sentences and all this other stuff. Then they get to me and they give me 90 days work release.
Wow.
And then they go back to and it was pure racism. I'll go out on the record and say that. But I will also say none of the other people in the room had their boss show up that day. None of the other people in the room had their boss show up and petition that he is a good member of society and my business will fail if he stays in jail. And so but why did my boss do that? Well, it was because I'm a hard worker and I work just as hard as I do now then. So imagine Joshua as your secretary, Misty.
You're hired.
I'm a pretty good secretary. And so because I had created so much value to myself, literally most people, if you go to jail twice, that usually means you're fired. And I actually did get fired. But the other people in the office said, hey, what are we going to do? We can't replace him right now. It was like a month before AEP.
Wow.
And so my story is I did everything I could to ruin my life, get felonies and everything else. I had to wait a very, very long time. The reason I haven't been in the business writing apps the whole 18 years I've been in the business is the first 14 and a half, I had to work for exponentially lower than I was worth. Wow. I had to work exponentially harder. And it was the only reason I was able to get my license because I went through all that stuff. Because if I would have just gone to the Division of Insurance, because I have to get what's called a 1033 waiver. So if you're out there and you have a felony, it's not over. You can get a license still, even if it's for something like forgery, like forging a prescription.
Wow.
Normally in insurance, that's an automatic hell no. Okay. Now for me, I had to go through a very long process. I had to write letters. I had to get letters of recommendation. I had to go through all this stuff. And then I had to wait 19 months from when I passed my license test. I paid the money to get my license and apply. And then 19 months is what it took for them to approve me. Wow. So I had to wait a long time. And so when someone looks at the results of my efforts now, number one, I felt like it was my only opportunity, and I'm not going to blow my own opportunity. I also spent 14 and a half years learning how to do this.
Yeah.
Like literally every piece of it, and having this, what my boss would do is after a while, he would just have me do everything. So I designed the entire training platform. I was going out and recruiting. I was flying around the country and training agents. Never had been in the field in my early 20s, trying to get people twice as old as me to listen to me, and they wouldn't. Imagine that. And then to this day, it's really hard for me to get someone to go like, hey, this is the system I do, just do it. And then 2 weeks later, I call them and I go, okay, did you do step one? They're like, whoa. And you're pissed off that you don't have the results, but you didn't even do step one, right? And so here's what I'll tell you. Whatever hole you dig for yourself in this world is designed that if you have the right heart and the right mission, you can get out of it. Now, some things you can't get out of. Okay. If you murder 10 people, I don't know what to tell you. And it's funny. We have an agent one time. He didn't tell us about it. We didn't find out until he tried to apply with United Healthcare that he was a murderer. Like he got declined. Like that was reason for decline, murder. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you have history like that, you got to find someone who will give you a second chance, and you have to be open and honest. So I don't go around. And the reason Missy brought up is because I talk about it. And I don't talk about it because I'm proud of it. I'm proud of who I've become, number one. Number two, I'm not proud of what I did, the decisions I made, all that kind of stuff. What I do know is I either own it and I share it, or I try to hide it. And if I try to hide it with the level of success I have, there's plenty of haters out there right now trying to find a way to take me down. I know this. I don't care. And so the one Achilles heel I have is my background. And so if I'm going around on podcasts and public forums and I'm just putting out there, what ammunition do my haters have left? Because this is the only thing. And I have a legal right to do what I do because I got permission from the state. So the mindset behind that, I didn't know this is what was going to happen from it. But what the reward was, with the undying belief that I could make amends. And to me, I've made amends on several different levels. And it's part of the reason why I enjoy giving back now, because I feel like I took so many things from so many people with lies and manipulations and other stuff that I can't give back enough to make it even. And so if you're in that position, if you're in a tough spot, if you've made mistakes, number one, own up and fix it. So pay your restitution, go to your classes, do whatever it is you got to do to make it right to where you're back to par. Okay. You get back to par. And then what you do from there is up to you. And I'll tell you, being a 3-time felon, it's really hard to get a job. It's really hard to find a place to live. It's really hard to do anything.
Yeah.
Okay. But it doesn't make it impossible. And if you're looking for proof of how you can do it, I'm not some special human. I'm not some superhuman, supernatural thing. I'm just a guy who has a certain gift from God with skill sets that I've given and also fine tuned over time. And I've learned that when opportunity comes, I say yes now. I don't hesitate. I don't think about, do I like it? Do I not like it? This is good. Opportunity is opportunity. You find out how good the opportunity is after you pursue it. You don't. Absolutely. There's no way to predetermine whether something's going to be good or not. You can have all the plans in the world. Life never goes to plan. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that up because it does help people. And that was a key portion of my keynote at 8%. And there was a lot more people in that room with felonies than you would think because most of them came up to talk to me afterwards. And so if you're out there and you're wondering, and you're hiding that, don't hide it. Own it, retribute it, format, make it right, and move on. And in that way, other people can't use that as something to hold you down. In reality, what you can do if you do it right is become something you stand on and you have confidence that that was me, but it's not me anymore, and I'm now in charge of the narrative that I'm going to take forward. So,
well, and Josh, I think also you took ownership that you everybody kept telling you had potential. And so in your mind, and this is just from, psychology background, you've taken on, well, they say I had potential. And so I think whether it's even it's a bad background, or if it's, you just had a hard childhood where someone told you you'll never be nothing. And, my brother actually has a mentor, just kind of like with your boss, you had a mentor that took you in and saved you because you can't get a house, you can't get a job, you can't get all that. So I think that negativity lives in your head if that's the way you were raised, because that's the only normal that I say change your friends, believe in yourself, and get around someone that's going to help you get to that next level. And that's why I admire you so much, because you didn't lie about it, and you never hid it, and you're like, this is me, and you didn't even show any, like, if you don't like me, it is what it is. It's a life that I didn't, now knowing I'm grown, I shouldn't have gone that. But for you to see it, a lot of people don't see it. And that's why people get stuck in that same little, I just call wheel. So I wanted to mention that for people, because I run them to them all the time. I love, Tracy says he does, where he helps people take their addiction and turn it into a different healthy addiction. Because we all have addictions, whether mine is chocolate. I love me some chocolate every time I'm nervous. That is my deal. So, I mean, not nervous, but stressed. So I just think we're here to help each other, and it's not saturated, and us building up each other. There's enough room for all of us to go to the top, and not to settle and listen to the naysayers, and just keep going.
Right. Yeah. So that was the fire today. We are out of time. Unfortunately, I'd love to we need to do this again. So let's plan another one after AEP. And I would love to see your results, and we'll compare scoreboards if we can.
Let's do, because I'm going to do it, Josh. I'm excited. And don't you be taking my clients now.
Well, I did get one client in Tennessee while I was at Coach First Nation.
Was it Chattanooga?
It was it was downtown Nashville. We were staying in Murfreesboro. I don't even know how to say it. I was staying in Murfreesboro, and somebody needed a ride back to Nashville. I was like, I don't got anything else to do. So I gave him a ride back to Nashville, and then we went and had tacos. And we were sitting at this taco joint, and the guy sitting across from me saw my pen. That's why I wear this damn thing all the time. And he goes, "Hey, James." And the guy sitting next to him, James was drunk, but luckily James was conscious enough to have a conversation with me. And I just found out, he goes, "I just got a letter like last week that my Social Security disability was approved, and they backdated it like 3 years." And I go, "No way, that means you're getting your Medicare now." He goes, "Yeah, I know." I go, "Awesome." I go, "What are you doing for your Medicare coverage?" He goes, "What do you mean?" So then literally I flew home, and then the next day him and I had a conversation. Long story short, he's a dual eligible, and we got him onto a dual plan for October 1st. So
How cool.
always wear your, like I said, for me, there's this one agent I have last year. It was his first AEP. He didn't have a lot of leads. So what he would do is he'd ask me about Medicare button on. He would go down to Walmart or King Soopers or any other grocery store, and he would just walk around, pretend shop all day. And he'd look for older people, and he'd go over towards them, and then they would see the button and the cart. He wrote like 15 applications just from people saying hi in the grocery store. So have your own unofficial sales event if you have to, and just be around. But yeah, thank you for coming. I'm really excited. You're one of the awesome people in the industry. There's a good and bad in everything, and you are part of the good. And so I'm always honored to do things with you, and I'd love to collaborate more. So
I would too, Josh. And good luck. I'm excited about compete every week. I'm gonna say how many you got this week.
That's good. We'll keep a public scoreboard and keep everybody accountable. But,
let's do.
Okay, everybody. Thanks again for joining us. This is the Top 1% podcast. We help people go from the top 20% to the top 1%. We hope that's you. We believe that's you. Thanks for joining us today, and have a great day.